Hi everybody, welcome back to my channel. Today we're going to make a large shamrock wreath using 3 heart-shaped wreath forms from the Dollar Tree. We're also going to use 6 of these wired edge burlap ribbon, also from the Dollar Tree, in green. You're going to need this wire that they also sell at the Dollar Tree, and a glue gun, and your scissor. Here we go. Oh yeah, don't forget your glasses and your coffee. Oh wait, that might just be for me. Okay, now here we go. First thing we're going to do is just cut off the tags, and then we're going to figure out, do we want the hearts to overlap or butt up next to each other? And I know that butting up next to each other kind of looks better, but I couldn't figure out a safe way to attach them. So my original plan was to overlap them, so that's what we're going to go with. So for the 2 side leaves, we're not going to totally wrap them. We're just going to leave this space blank for when we attach all of the leaves together. Now we're covering the corner. What we do is we're going to turn it over. We're going to glue the end of the ribbon to the back side of the ribbon. And then we're just going to wrap around the corner. So we're going to come at one angle and then wrap over, cross over the V, and then back down. And then you're just going to continue to wrap along the way. This point isn't as important as when you do the heart-shaped Valentine's wreath, because it's going to get covered by the one center leaf in the middle. And now we're just going to continue to wrap just like the heart-shaped wreath, overlapping about halfway until we come around to the point. Okay, so when we get to the top point, we want to make sure that we cover the very tip. So as you can see here, I'm trying to figure the best way to do it. Okay, so I think the best way to do it is going to have to be that we glue it. So let's cover the very point. We'll add a drop of glue, so we're going to glue the ribbon to itself. But make sure we cover the point. Oh, the point got uncovered. Hold on. Just move it over a little bit. Move it over. There you go. And then wrap it around the back. You want to make sure that your spaces are even as possible. You see here I have sort of a tiny little overlap there, but a huge overlap there. So I'm just trying to even it out a little bit. There we go. And then, okay, just glue it back. I left this in here so you guys can see that it's, it takes some effort. It's not always like, not effort, but it's not first time, first try for everything, sometimes you got to work it out. So then we're going to go ahead and glue the end of the ribbon to the back side, and when it's already attached, then we're going to go ahead and cut off and then start in the other direction. Okay, so I took a new ribbon, because when you make this as a heart, this is the technique that you use. So you wrap half a heart and then you open another ribbon and wrap the second half of the heart, just to keep it from buckling up on itself. So I'm going to take the end of the second ribbon and I'm going to head in the other direction. And since the point was actually covered the first time, I just have to butt up to the point. And just make sure the glue holds before you start wrapping, or it'll just pull itself out. Okay, once we have that attached, we flip it over, we take a look at our spacing. Now, when you're matching the first half, it takes a little bit longer because you want to try to match the second half to the first half. When you're just doing the first half, you're just wrapping, trying to get even spaces. But then when you go to wrap the second half, you want to try to make it as best a mirror image as possible. And then we're going to stop right at the point that we're going to overlap, and which is just below the 1 wire. So from the corner to just below 1 wire is where you're going to stop, and you're going to leave that blank space. And then just make sure when you do your second leaf that if you started with the left side, you do the right side, and if you started with the right side, you do the left side. Just don't make two of the same. They have to be like a mirror image, okay? So however we started the first one, you're just going to repeat it in the opposite direction. Okay, so here's what the two side leaves look like, and now we're going to wrap the center leaf, and the center leaf is going to be wrapped almost entirely, but we're going to actually wrap them around both blank spaces. So hang on, here's what it looks like. So when we start with the center leaf, we're going to do it like we did with the heart tutorial, which I'll link down below and up here on the card. But what you're going to do is you're going to start at the dip where the two rounded parts meet. And then you're going to wrap around the right side until you get to the point where you start to hit the straight edge, and that's when you start wrapping both together. So watch here. So this is the point where it's going to start overlapping. So we're just going to glue the back side of the ribbon just to the outside edge of the layer before it, because we don't want it to unravel while we're working on the other half. And then we're just going to repeat the process for the left side as we did for the right side, starting in the center of the point and then going about the same length on the left as we did on the right. And then turning it over and gluing it in place just along the outside edge. We're doing it along the outside edge so that we can continuously wrap them. You'll see this in a second. But you're not going to cut these two ribbons off. You're just going to leave them on there and then go to the next step. So we're going to attach the right side first. What you want to do is you want to line up the points at the bottom, the two bottom tips. Hold them tightly together with one hand and then just wrap, continue to wrap like we did before, just around and around, overlapping, leaving spaces, try to make the spaces as even as possible. And then when you get to the center point, you're just going to turn it over and glue it, tack it down to hold it. And put that ribbon off to the side and work on the other side. Just repeat the exact same process for the left. Here we're going to tack the ribbon down in place just to keep it from unraveling while we work on the center. And then you can cut off one of the two ribbons at this point. So now we're going to turn it over and work on covering the peak of the wireframe. What I've done is I've taken one scrap of fabric, probably about 6 or 8 inches long, excuse me, and I've tucked it under the peak of the center leaf, as you can see here. What I realized at this very point was that this wire ribbon has a right side and a wrong side because I apparently had it upside down. So you want to make sure that the right side is facing the right side. And then I'm just going to fold over the corner because I'm just trying to cover that very, very peak. So however you have to do it, so it's nice and even. As you can see, I just pulled it tight on one side and tucked it down. Because we're actually going to wrap this end like we've been doing the whole other time. So we're going to take and go behind just the center of the top leaf and make sure we wrap it around itself and make sure all the wire is covered, as you can see here. And then we're going to just glue it in place and let it dry before we move on. Now we're going to take the last piece of ribbon that's attached and we're going to inspect to see if we need to cover any holidays, as my dad used to call them, any place that's not covered by ribbon yet. And it looks like we did just a little zhuzhing, but looks like we did pretty good. So we're just going to glue it to its back now that we're all done. And once the glue is cooled off, we can go ahead and put that aside and work on the stem. So we can go ahead and take this heavy gauge wire found at the Dollar Tree, and we're going to make 2 layers. We're going to twist them together for strength. And then we're going to shape them into a stem shape. Now, this stem is not going to support any weight, so it doesn't need to be super strong. It just needs to hold together long enough that we can wrap it with some burlap. My stem pieces were 18 inches long, and I had about, the long side was on the right side, it ended up being, because that's the way I thought aesthetically it looked nice. And now we're going to go ahead and start at where the 2 wires meet. I found that this helps with the strength of, when I tried to initially wrap it the other way, it was squeezing the wire closed. So unlike when you wrap the heart, and the heart I tell you to pull the ribbon tight, this one I want you to be gentle with it and just basically lay it across. Now at first it's not going to look all that great and you're going to think like, well, that doesn't really look great, but hang on because we're going to fix that at the end, okay? So we're just going to overlap, glue as we need, and wrap down to the end. So when we get into the very end here, what we're going to do is we're not going to actually cover, like wrap around the underside, but we're going to glue the underside. So you want to make sure that you line your ribbon straight with your underside. And you'll see here, I'm sorry some of it's off camera, but what we're going to do is we're going to glue to the wire and then to the edge of the ribbon, and you'll see. And then you're just going to make it almost like you were closing a pillow that you were gluing. So you're just going to glue it around there, okay, and then give it a zhuzh. So just try to make your spaces even like we did before. And now what we're going to do is cut off the end and tuck the end in, or cut off the excess, excuse me, and tuck the end in with a little glue, just so it has a neater finish on the back. And then what we're going to do is we're going to fix all of those little bumpy peaks. Now, because this isn't a perfect shape like the heart or the circle wreath, it did leave these little overlap bumps. But what you're just going to do is you're going to take each peak that was overlapped and you're going to fold it over and just glue it down. Again, I'm sorry, it's mostly off camera here, but I'm going to turn it around in a second and you should be able to see exactly what it looks like. So here you can actually, oh, not yet, okay. One more. Oh, there you go. So now you can actually see what we were doing, what we're gluing down each of those extra points of fabric, so that when you turn it back over, there's no extra gaps. Now we're going to attach the stem to the shamrock, and we're going to basically just do this with hot glue. Again, it doesn't support any weight, we just need it to stay attached. And we're just going to use a lot of hot glue. We still have one side of the ribbon attached because we want to see if we don't need to cover, if we have any holidays once we're done with this. But I think then that's it, we're good. So we covered over. So now when we turn it over, we'll put extra glue on the front undersides of the where the two leaves meet the stem, and then just hold it. Because you use so much glue, it does take a minute or two to set up. I didn't add anything to hang this with because I have a hook that I'm going to hang it on, but if you want to know how to hang it, just look at the other tutorials for the Valentine's Day wreath. I hope you like this tutorial. If you do, give it a thumbs up. Don't forget to share with friends and family or anybody you think might be interested, or might be Irish, or might be celebrating St. Patrick's Day. As always, subscribe for more if you haven't. Thank you for watching, and take care, and God bless. See you next time.